Hello again. This is the course of Information System Development, and we are going to continue with the next chapter, which is related to the Django interaction with DB. So, DB, what is DB? Yeah, if you're familiar with the terms of the information system, I guess you will know that DB means database. So, we are going to discuss more about the database here. So the topic that we are going to learn on this chapter is how to create the database and how can we access the data and how can we do the query in database. So let's start with the first section, how can we create the database. When we deal with the database, actually, yeah, we are going to learn about things with what we call as the Django architecture components. Okay? So what is the Django architecture components? In the world, we learn about the components in the web. It contains of at least three, okay? Model, template, and view. In other concept, they call it MVC, model, view, and controller. Because we are using Django, so I would like to focus on these three components, or model, template, and view. We already learned many things about the view. Okay, we learn about the view and we learn about the template. So when we deal with the view, you are going to connect with one HTML file. Okay? And when you deal with the template, you have the data and then you have the variables and you want to put those variables and those data into the view. Okay? So we learned already about to connect the template and the view. So let's see what is template. So templates is the presentation layer, okay, and this template contains presentation related decision, how something should be displayed on a web page or other type of document. And in the respective of view, it is the business logic layer. So the logic layer here means we are going to access the model and diverse to the appropriate template. So you already learned the views.py is to uh, deliver the template, deliver some code in Python into the HTML file. So it is like the bridge between some kind of models and the templates. So what is model itself? In our previous examples, we didn't do anything with the database. So there is no data access. We just put the data into a format like list. We are just using the data into a format like a variable. Okay, so if we have a database, of course we want to access the full database. Then we call those the kind of database is a model. So the model is the data access layer. This layer contains anything and everything about the data: how to access it, how to validate it, and which behavior it has, and the relationship between the data. So if you are doing the information system development, I guess you already learned about the database, and database is one of the model that we can use in the Django architecture. So here you can see the interaction between the model and the template and the view. If you have the model, so it is a logical data structure, you can give the whole data into the view, and the view can design, update, and delete the model. And also when we have the view, there is the data formatting. We can connect, we can display the data into the presentation layer, and the presentation layer will do something. For example, if the user gives the input, and it will affect to the data. So those things are interconnected in Django. So we are going to discuss how can we configure the DB. In basic concept of the Django, you can use a lot of DB. So DB is the database. Okay? The database tool. There are various database tools in the world, and Django with the PyCharm already provide the SQLite. Okay, SQLite is one of the database tool. It is the default by Django, and yeah, you can just connect to the SQLite easily. If you plan to use like MySQL or Oracle or Postgre and other kind of database, yeah, please feel free to use and to install those database. But of course, you need to consider your resources. For example, if you're using laptop, if you want to install MySQL, of course, it will consume more memories. It will consume more space. If you use Oracle, also, yeah, it's very heavy. So you need to think how can you store your data later. And if you have a server computer, of course, it is more convenient. So I don't want to recommend you with a very big database. So let's just use the very light database, and this is the most recommended database when you learn about the DB in Django. So let's just use SQLite. So in the setting file in Django environment, you need to you need to configure the DB at first time. So if you are using the DB in the default, it means you can just use the SQLite, and the current version of the SQLite is 3. If you are using the Postgre, then you need to specify the Postgre SQL. If you're using MySQL, you need to specify MySQL. If you're using Oracle, then you need to specify Oracle. Or yeah, other backends. If you want to use like MongoDB or other kind of database, then you can just use that one. So the name is representing about the database. If you're using the SQLite, the database will be a file in your computer. And that case name should be full absolute path including file name and that file. So if you are having the SQLite DB, and whenever you create your file, whenever you create your Django project, you will create db.sqlite3, and it will be automatically stored in the project directory. And also, when you deal with the DB, you need to understand the concept of apps. Okay? Please don't think too much about these apps. It's not related with the Android apps or yeah, something that you already know about apps. But Django have the term apps to say about the project that you want to publish on the web. Okay? So the apps that Django has is related with the admin. So we will also learn about the admin side and the authentication, content types, sessions, message, static files. Yeah, those are the apps that are the defaults by Django. So you can use it when you configure those and when you execute those apps in Django. So I don't want to say very theoretical things, and let's just focus on how to create the DB. Okay, so first we need to create a model. So the model means the database tables, and after you have the model, you can configure the settings. Okay, in the settings, yeah, you can do something, but I guess because you're using the PyCharm professional, you don't need to configure any settings. So the settings is automatically uh, configured for you, so you can just reuse it and you can just execute the database design. And after you do the configuration for the setting and creating the model, you can execute the migrations. Okay, so I will give you the way to migrate, or you need to execute your first database. And yeah, let's make it manually, okay? Because it's very good practice for you to understand how the database is developed. And after you have those basic things for the migration, at the next section, we will learn about the create, read, update, delete, or we can just make it short, CRUD, or some people say CRUD, okay, CRUD operations. So there are four, okay, create a model and then configure the settings and then execute migration, execute SQL migration and execute migrate, and then finally you will do the CRUD. So the CRUD section will be so long, so maybe for this video, we will just do the first, second, and third one. So for this model, let's create a new project. Okay. Now just open your PyCharm. Okay. Okay, I have some projects here. I guess I just make a new one, and maybe we can make for DB example. Okay, because I already have this. Oh yeah, you should choose Django. Okay, don't choose pure Python, but for DB example. Okay, so I think I already have this project name, so I will just put one more like 01. Okay, I just want to put this one as different file name, because if I put the same name, then it will conflict with my files. So just put the for DB example 1, and then just use the existing interpreter for now, so we can do more later with the new environment. Okay. So just create for this easy make for the easy project for this one. Okay, so okay, now you can see we have the 4dp1. Okay, and for the first time we will do the package. Yes, we are doing we need to make a new folder. Okay, because if we are using the existing folder, maybe you will be very confused. There are so many files, so it will be so complicated. So let's make a new folder, and let's make the name of the folder new pods. So here is your project. In the project, you just click on the right button of your mouse, and after you click the right button, you can just choose the Python package, yeah, and make the name of your package new pols. So please remember that you will use this new pols during this week, and you need to understand all the things will be connected to this new pol. And after you have the new pols, you need to create a new Python file, which is models.py. So let's make inside of the new post, you will make a new Python file, and the file name is models. Okay, so just type models, because it automatically create the models.py. So you have the first file about models, and yeah, this models actually is related with your database. I'm not going to explain more about the ERD, entity relationship diagram. Okay? I assume that you already took the database class, so you can easily understand this kind of diagram. But if you haven't taken the database class, I expect you to learn briefly about the database. Okay, because this class is not about database, so I just want to give a very brief explanation about this database. And for this example, I would like to create two models, or yeah, I can say two the two database, or two column, not two column, two entities. Okay, the first entity is question, and the other quantities is choice. So these things will be developed in the models.py. Okay, so here the first entity, we have the name question. We have question text. This question text is char field. Okay. Do you know char field? Okay, if you are using the Java or Python, you will understand this char field as a string. Okay, or in some other database they use text. Okay, so it depends on the language or the tools. So for SQLite, they use char field to specify the string, and the size, which is 200, is the size of the text. And then we have pub date, it is the date time field. And okay, if you are familiar with the database, you may understand this symbol. Okay, this symbol is way to present the credentials. So one question will have many answers or many choices. So a question has a question and a publication date, and a choice has two fields. So this is the field of the choice text and then vote. Okay. So it means if you have questions, you can have a lot of answers because this symbol means one to many. Okay. And we have choice text, which is a char field 200, and float, which is an integer field with the basic value or the default value is 0. So I would like to make a new models. Okay, so just copy and paste for now. I will explain later. So in the models, this is the code, and we have questions and choice, and you already know about the question text, publication date, question, choice text, and vote. Okay. And next, if you have one more application in your Django, you need to consider the application introduction or configuration in your setting file. So in your setting, yeah, you check this one. Okay, this is a setting, and you go to the install apps because you're making a new apps. Then you need to say something here. New post. Okay, you can see it's automatically appear. So if you're correct, then just double click here and then don't forget to put comma. Here it means I have a new install application and the name is new post. So the new post refer to the folder that you just created. And for the others, just keep it for your future purpose. And after you have the model, we want to make migrations. Okay, so this is the important part. You want to migrate the code into the database. So first you need to do the make migrations. So yeah, I guess there's a kind of, okay, you can go to the tools, okay, and then you can go to run manage py tasks. Yeah. So I already gave you this. You go to tools and then you have the option run manage py.task. Click on it. Yeah. After you click on it, then it will show you something like this one. Okay. So in the bottom part of the PyCharm, you will see manage.py for db example 01. So now you have this console, and this console should do this make migration new poles. So we want to make migration of the folder, oh sorry, not the folder, but yeah, this is the folder. Basically this is a folder, but when we make this folder, it then intentionally is this for the application that you want to create. So all the things that you want to put, which is about models, or later we will learn about admin, etc. So those uh, files are related with the application. So you need to put inside the folder of this application. So first of all, you need to make the make migration of new poles. So the new poles is the name of the applications. So I want to make migration new poles. And if there is no serious things, then this PyCharm will generate a value, oh sorry, a file is called as 0001 underbar initial.py. So you can open this one. Okay, so you have this additional file. Okay. And after you do this make migrations, you can check, okay, if it is correctly executed, then you will see one folder migration. Okay, so we already see. If it is corrected, then you will see this file. And after you finish with the make migration, you need to do the SQL migrations. It means you need to build your database schema. Okay, so when we do this migration, it means we want to make the database schema based on the new post 0001. What is this one? 0001. So if you open this, actually, yeah, this is the operations to create the database. So you don't need to type one by one, create model or create column or create attribute. You don't need to do that one. You need only to execute this 0001. So how can you execute? Again, I already give you the code. SQL migrate new post 0001 and put it here. Okay. So after you execute, you can check, okay, there is no error, and yes, we create the table. Okay, so we are creating the questions, one question table, and then one choice table. Okay, so those are the details when they use the query to create the table. And after you do this SQL migrate, you need to migrate. Okay, you need to migrate in your console here. Just press migrate. And after you do this migrate, you will see that, oh, okay, I forgot to show you that before we do the migrate, this db.sqlite is not clear. So there is no color, there is no symbol about database. So you need to create the model, and then you need to migrate the model first in prior to developing the DB. So if it is ready, then you can see the color is changing. Okay? And yeah, if you want to see the details in the tree, so you can go to here. So you can see that this column, or the most right part, there's one section about database. Okay, so if you want to easy understand the database, so just press here and then do and drag and drop. Okay, once you do the drag and drop, then you can open the schema, and you will get the schema is new polls choice and new polls questions. Okay, so those are the schema that we just created. So what are the explanation for each of the code? Okay. When we have the model, actually we are making one table, or we are making one database. So there are many things in the models, but before you start, you need to import Django.db import models. So each model has a number of class variables, each of which represent a database in the model. So for this one, I'm making class. Okay, I make one class is related with question, and the other class is related with the choice. So you can think that the class is a kind of entity. Okay, and inside of this entity, you will have two variables for question, and you will have 1, 2, 3. There are three variables for choice. And in order to make this variable, yeah, in the object oriented, it is not related with the data type itself, but because it is the database, so we need to clearly mention the data type. So if, for example, the question types will be a char field or character field, which the maximum rank equals to 200. If you are making the date, then you can just use models.date time field. So it is automatically appear the date time format. So this tells Django what type of data its field holds. If it is char field, of course it is about string. The time field, it is about time. So in the field, okay, the field, you need to specify the field clearly, and you will use this value in your Python code. So later you will call those values in your Python code, and your database will use it as the column name. So you will use it as the column name for this one. You can use an optional first positional argument to a field to designate the human readable name that is used in a couple inspected part of Django, and it doubles the documentation. So if you want to make some kind of documentation, then you can deal with some ways. Okay, but I will not discuss the detail. And if this field is not provided, Django will use the machine readable name. In this example, we have only defined a human readable name for questions. So when the human read these questions, then they can figure out what is the answer, and they can just put into the column. So the other fields, the field machine readable name will suffice to its human readable name. Okay. Yeah, if you check on the data type, okay, it is like a weird when you define the data type with more parameters. For example, the char field has maximum length 200. So it means, yeah, you cannot do more with 200 characters. And the field, yeah, it means something is related with the default value. If there is nothing, yeah, like this one, integer field, so the default is 0, then you know that this is the initial value. There's also a relationship between the one table and another table. We call it, this is the foreign key. Okay, so for this foreign key, I would like to uh, connect this question into the class questions. And what is that purpose? So we are going to cascade on delete. Cascade, it means it will be connected to the questions. Okay. So yeah, those kind of methods. There are some other methods here for avoiding deletion on the parent class. But for this one, I think it's not a serious issue. So the cascade is safe. And when you do with this the database for the first time, remember that you need to migrate. Okay, what is the migrate? Migrations are very powerful and let you change your model over time as you develop your project without the need to delete your database tables and make a new ones. So if you already did the migration for the first time, then you know you don't need to do another kind of migrations. And you can change, you can delete, and you can put more something into your database. Yeah, and after that you can just do another migrate. Okay. But please remember that there are 3 steps in making model change. So you need to change the model in models.py, and then you need to run the make migration. Okay, so in some other cases, last time I did this course using Eclipse, so this command should be executed. And after you do it, make migrations, finally you need to run the migrate in the console. Okay. So if you want to do more explanation, yeah, it depends on your need, especially when you're going to do the final project. Of course, you need to understand some things related with the way they put numbers. Okay, so in SQLite, they will have a unique number to be an index of your table. Like say, if I have question and I have choice, so the SQLite will automatically generate a number, and that will be the primary keys. Yeah. Of course, you will say, can I change this primary key into my own ID? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But it's recommended if you can just use your own ways. Okay? If you want to use the Python or this Django primary keys, yeah, that's also only for the indexing, I guess. Okay? So it would be better if you have your own identifier or your own ID or primary key. Okay? And also you need to understand that the foreign key is the connection between one table to the another table, and don't make the same thing with your DB if your DB is not SQLite. Okay, so if your DB is about MySQL, then the primary key will be auto increment. If you are using PostgreSQL, uh, the primary key will automatically generated in serial number. In SQLite, it will be an integer primary key auto reinforcement. So the SQL migrate does not actually run the migration of your database. It just print it to the screen so that you can see what structure query language Django thing is required. So yeah, different database may have different ways to query the data. So please be mind that this course is intended for the SQLite. And if you're using other kind of database, let's discuss more. Okay. So maybe if you need more help, then I will teach you how you can deal with your own database. But for this course, I'll just focus on the SQLite. So yeah, I guess that's all for this video. I will continue the next section in other video. Okay, thank you very much for listening.